everyone, and welcome back to Blue Balloon Theatre's podcast. I can't even remember how many episodes we are in now, but I'm very, very excited to introduce today's guest to you. We've got the Dove and the Dragon, aka
Hello.
Kitty. Hello.
Hello.
I was really keen to get you on the podcast, Kitty, because you are so talented, first of
Thank
all.
you.
But you're very creative as a person, and
Yeah.
musically, a lot of people may know you for your music.
Mhm.
But I wanted to kind of delve deeper into kind of your process, where your ideas come from.
Mhm.
Um, I have had the absolute pleasure of hearing your music, and it reminds me so much of Joni Mitchell. I was thinking
The
about
huge
this.
compliment.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's true though. It's true. And Joni Mitchell is an absolute icon in terms of music and storytelling through
Mhm.
song. It would you say that Joni Mitchell is kind of an inspiration for you? And
Absolutely. Yeah. Huge inspiration. And my dad used to play all Joni Mitchell's music kind of back to back, every album, growing up. And she's not someone I kind of listened to independently from my dad, but I think I was just surrounded by her sound and the stories. And then as I got older and developed my own music taste, kind of found my way listening to her and um being inspired independently from my dad. So it's a strange one. I've not known life without Joni Mitchell because my dad was just constantly, it was her, David Bowie, Tom Waits. They were kind of the main ones that he just played constantly, every single track. And um, I think I just kind of absorbed it all. And then I'd say as I kind of grown up and found my own music style, kind of found she fits into that as well. So yeah, absolutely. The fact you mentioned her name, that's a huge compliment.
oh, I love that, and I love that
Yeah.
your house was filled with music when you were
Hmm.
younger. I
Hmm.
really resonate with that. When I was a kid, I remember we often listened to Queen. Queen was like,
Yeah.
it was, yeah, rather iconic
Yeah.
in our house. I think everybody was slightly jealous of my dad who'd managed to see Queen back in
Oh
the day.
wow. Yeah.
Um, but do you think I mean, you've kind of touched on it there, but your writing and where you get inspiration from, does that come from the sort of music you've listened to growing up, or does it come from
Mhm.
something different?
Um, I mean, I think for me, music's just something that's kind of inherently, as I say, I've always been surrounded by. My dad was a musician himself. He used to play and release music in the 90s before I was born. And then he kind of just stopped when he became a dad. So he never actually shared music with me. So it's always a weird one. It was like music was this thing that was all around, but I wasn't allowed to kind of like share with him. It was a really weird kind of thing growing up, weird dynamic because it was like there's music everywhere, but he did not want to, like he just kind of fell out of love with it really dramatically after he lost his own dad. And then it just kind of like it was a weird one. I think I had quite a difficult relationship with music for a long time, really. So I kind of got into theatre first, and did. I like in my head, I didn't want to do what my dad did, so I was like, right, well, I'm going to do the acting. My mum was always writing and painting, so very creative household. But yeah, I was kind of fixed on the one thing that my parents didn't do, which was acting. I was like, right, that's my thing then. That's how I can do my own. And then I think as I um, kind of I started playing guitar when I was about 12, 13, and it just became an outlet for me that I could say everything I wanted to say in a play, but within like 3 minutes. And that was just amazing to my brain to be able to make these characters and these stories and then condense it into a really small little kind of snapshot. And that just felt absolutely magical to me. And I think after that, I just kind of listened more and kind of opened up to loving music. And it's still something that, I do kind of come come to and then go away from. I don't think I've ever got a straightforward path in music, but it's something I will always do and adore. And I think my music tastes are very different from like I'm really distracted because there's loads of dogs running around. I'm in the park and I'm trying to concentrate on the conversation, but there's a big dog. Um, but yeah, like I feel like I kind of started listening to my own style of music and listened to a lot of folk and country, which my mum and dad just did not like at all growing up. My mum especially was just like, country is the worst genre in the world. So
Oh,
yeah, she's full on her yeah, it's a real kind of weird role reversal there because she listens to everything that's in the charts really, and that's just been my. She thinks country is the most boring thing ever. Whereas to me, it's like folk country Americana. That's my little world. But yeah, inspiration kind of comes from everywhere. It's a weird one.
I love that. And I love what you said there about, you could write a play, but actually for
Mhm.
you, all of that magic of the character and
Mhm.
the place and the setting, the atmosphere, you can condense that into like 3 minutes of a
Yeah.
song.
Mhm.
That I love that. That feels very profound.
Mhm.
I feel like that should be a quote somewhere,
Yeah.
you know. But that's lovely, and I love that kind of that rebellion that you had
Yeah.
as a younger person. That was like, no, I must try all these things that my
Yeah.
parents didn't. And I
Mhm.
think, it makes complete sense. I didn't know that about you, that you came from such a
Yeah.
creative household as well.
Mhm.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
um so talk to us about you've kind of touched on your journey into music a little bit
Mhm.
there. You started acting, like how did you, was it just that rebellion that kind of got you into that?
Yeah, I think I mean, it's something I always kind of like. The theatre was the first place I ever kind of felt that was like my church when I was little, like being in a theatre. I remember going to see Annie the Palace Theatre with my mom when I was about 5. And I remember the dog ran off stage and it was hilarious because we couldn't get it back and they had to stop. And then it was just, I just absolutely was obsessed with the theatre and musicals from a very young age. And was kind of had my heart set on that's what I wanted to do. Um, and then I think when I kind of was getting into music, um, it's something where I kind of, I don't know, it's a really weird one. It's just something that's kind of always been what I do. Like I've never questioned it or intentionally, I've not kind of listened to someone and been like, oh, I want to play music. It's just kind of the way I've done things. And the same with acting, like that's just something I did and something I wanted to do and never kind of questioned. But I think my mum wanted, I was homeschooled. So my sister, I've got 2 younger sisters, and the middle one, she was poorly for like all her childhood. She had leukemia. She's thankfully fine now. But we were homeschooled and we didn't have a normal childhood at all. And I think my mum wanted us to have a little bit of normality and make friends and be around people our own age. And that felt really limited in Salford at the time. If it wasn't school, it was like, I wasn't sporty or anything like that. So my mum kind of made it a mission to find somewhere, and that happened to be Salford Arts Theatre, where I kind of actually got to go on the stage and do theatre stuff. And it was through that that's the first time I sang as well, is when I had to do a musical, um, which I was not happy about at the time. Like I don't do music. um, but yeah, it's something that is kind of, I don't know. It's it's quite about theatre. To answer your question, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so forgetful. Yeah, I'm just rambling. But yeah,
No,
with theatre, that was definitely kind of, like I said, my mum wanted us to do something. I wanted me to do something that was a little bit of normality away from the hospital trips and kind of my parents were splitting up at the time, and my other sister had just been born. There's all this stuff going on, and she just wanted something to kind of ground us and keep us, around people our own age, and that was the theatre. So
I love that.
yeah,
I think it's so important even now. I mean, especially with the state of arts in schools and things like that,
yeah, absolutely,
for a lot of young people, having that outlet, whatever it is, it could be music, it could be a
hmm
theatre class,
yeah,
dance class, it could be sports, it could be
yeah,
anything. Having that outlet outside of school, even if they do go to school or if they're
hmm
homeschooled like yourself, it's so important.
it is,
It's a bit of
it is,
escapism, isn't it? Um,
hmm
as well as being able to sort of delve into your passion as a
yeah,
creative, a budding
hmm
creative.
yeah,
Um, But that's so interesting, and I mean, kudos to your mum for being like,
Yeah, absolutely. She
let's,
was determined.
let's, yeah, because
Yeah.
it is hard. It's hard for any parents. Like you say, at the time there maybe was less sort of things that young people could engage with outside of
Mhm.
that school environment. So, I mean, yeah, kudos to her for actually
Yeah.
finding something. And
Yeah.
I mean, goes without saying, anyone that follows Blue Balloon Theatre will know
Yeah.
how much we think of Salford Arts. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Ronnie and Scott are
Mhm.
absolute legends, and
They are.
they still run the young company
Hmm.
actually.
Hmm.
And yeah, they do so much work with their community, and it's so important because in that particular area of Salford, I'm not aware of any other sort of theatre or
No, not
theatre
at all.
group. um so yeah, big up Salford Arts, love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I know for me, like when I was little, it was kind of a weird thing to want to do theatre, like
Yeah.
on because I grew up like on estates and stuff. And I remember I've never been to school, but I kind of would hang around with like friends on the street and stuff. And I remember getting like picked on for singing Titanic. It's just like I was singing my little heart out, singing Titanic, and these older kind of mean girl type girls were just like, "You're so weird. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?" And I remember like that was just like stuck in my head of like you don't do that. You don't do Salford, and you don't like if you're from Salford, you don't do theatre.
Yeah.
And Salford Arts Theatre absolutely just changed that. Having Ronnie as a kind of a female kind of powerhouse of a person, and Scott with that support of her, letting her take center stage in that respect, and letting her kind of form what she did with the young theatre company. It was just for me, it was absolutely inspiring. It really was.
Amazing. I love that. If they're listening,
Yeah.
big up Ronnie and Scott, we love
Yeah.
you. Um, so that kind of it takes me nicely on to my next question. And I
Mhm.
apologize. I am literally probing you in this episode. I feel like I've got so many questions for you, Kitty. But
Yeah.
I wanted to speak to you about your new music that you're releasing,
Mhm.
your EP. Talk to us
Yeah.
about that. I mean, we can find you on Spotify, and
Yeah.
you're out there in the world. But
Yeah.
talk to us about your new music.
So I've always had a real block with releasing stuff because in my head, until it's perfect, I don't like I love writing. I'm always writing. I'm always playing live, but recording it and releasing it is a real problem. So over the summer, I kind of wanted to, I don't know, just kind of clear the space in a way because I've got so many songs that I need them out somewhere just so I can kind of write new ones. And I was approached by a friend of mine. Well, he's become a friend of mine, a musician from the Greater Manchester music scene called Benjamin Finney, who he does a lot of kind of ambient stuff, a lot of found sound guitar, kind of quite outside of what I do, but really holistic kind of nature-based approach to music that just it we just clicked right away. And he kind of offered to just record um some of my songs for me. He just was like, it wasn't planned. I wasn't necessarily looking to record. He was just like, well, you've got this amount of songs, just pick a few and we'll record them and see what happens. I was like, okay, I can do that. So yeah, we spent a couple of days over the summer. 2 days we spent at the theatre space in the Eagle, and I really wanted to record it in a theatre. We had no soundproofing or anything like that. We just set up um one microphone, um, and my guitar, and I sat on the stage and played some of my some of the songs that I'd chosen to kind of put together and group together. And again, I think because I've come from that background of theatre and storytelling, I always with any kind of collection of songs, I like them to have a kind of cohesive story and a narrative. So for me, it was about kind of an observation of progression and change and nature and the summer and kind of complex. I don't know that the kind of falling in and out of love with things, with people, working through that. I kind of wanted to encapsulate all that in this little 6 song kind of collection, which is called The Sun King, which is one of the first songs that I kind of ever wrote in my own style when I started doing Americana, when I was like 17 or something. So that's the oldest song on there. And then there's one called You Left Me Amazed that is I wrote especially for the EP just because I needed one. But yeah, recorded them in one day, and then I scrapped all those because I had a blocked nose and we sounded awful. So we recorded it again on another day. We just did them all in 2 hours, and they're the first takes. And then my another friend of mine, Chris Pudney, who's an amazing singer-songwriter in his own right, he mixed them and mastered them. And yeah, I just put them out there and let them do their own thing, and hopefully clear some space for me then to kind of work on a new collection in the next year, or as whenever it feels right to do so.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. Like that is brilliant. And it sounds
Yeah.
amazing as well. The Sun
Thank
King
you.
is
Yeah.
such a beautiful title as well. As
Yeah.
soon as I knew, like I remember seeing the picture on your socials,
Yeah.
the Sun King written on it, and I thought, that's just a vibe. That
Yeah.
whole picture and title is just, it immediately gives me a sense of your writing and you as an
Yeah.
artist. And having heard you many times, like I cannot, to any listeners out there, I cannot recommend The Dove and the Dragon enough. Go
Thank you
to
very much.
Spotify, go and stream right now.
Thank you.
That's amazing though. And I love how authentic, even you just describing how you recorded it,
Hmm.
that is very authentic. You kind
Yeah.
of one take, you sat in a theatre space, you're doing you're just singing and playing, and that feels
Yeah.
very sort of true to you as an artist.
Hmm.
From what I know of you and the times I've seen you perform and play, you are very real. It feels very raw, and
Yeah.
that is a real talent, because
Hmm.
I think there is this thing, when you're an artist, you kind of want things to be as good as they can be. You want it to be perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, but I mean, in terms of your writing process, would you say your when do you know that a song is done? When do you feel that?
It's a weird one because I think I'm quite bad at knowing that because I don't ever revisit songs. I kind of just I don't know, for me it's an outlet. If I'm kind of feeling low or my brain's feeling overwhelmed, or whether that's overwhelmed in a good way or a bad way, it's like I have a kind of a build up of whatever's going on around me, and then I'll just sit down, I'll play, and usually it will then result in a full song. Which sounds really weird, I know, but I kind of just write them in one go and then don't really tweak them. Or if I do, it will be kind of in quite a logical way of kind of looking at where can I switch a word to make something a little bit stranger or a little bit less typical. Like that's what I want to say. That's what I've sang kind of instinctively. But how can I say this without saying it literally?
Yeah,
So I do those kind of like tweaking bits. But I've got a songbook that's it's absolutely overflowing with verses or choruses because I do tend to just write, snapshot, move on. And again, that's kind of why recording for me is kind of a really weird one because I've not actually spent that time to sit down and perfect the song. So is this as good as it can be? And it's fine for me when I'm just doing it for myself when I'm writing it or even performing live. Like what I perform doesn't then have to be the same next time I perform it. Whereas if it's recorded, if it's out there for people to listen to, I'm saying this is it, and I'm trying to kind of unlearn that. Um, but I don't know. I feel like what songs are now, they're finished now, but they might not be what they'll be forever. Like they might change and develop as my views change or my kind of I don't know as I grow older and have more life experiences. And I think I quite like that about writing.
yeah.
And again about folk music and Americana music is it's that passing down of stories and melodies and words. So as much as they are finished when I've done them, I think they're kind of always going to be a work in progress as well for as long as I'm still writing. Um, yeah,
I love that. I think there's a lot to be said about the connection between music and poetry, and what you've kind of said
absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
You know, I feel that a lot with my poetry, especially. I come back to a lot of pieces I've written, say 2, 3 years ago, and I might perform them now at an open mic or a gig, and I think to myself, this is so different. I feel differently about this piece, and it does
Mm.
change. It changes the performance
Yeah.
of it, and I think as artists, we should be able to revisit pieces that we've written and change
Hmm.
it if we want to, make a second
Yeah.
edition. You know, that is such a beautiful thing because it is the passing of time. It is everything,
Yeah.
like you say, it's everything we're learning and
Hmm.
growing into and coming to be as people. I could write a poem now about the government, and in a year's
Yeah.
time I could come back to it and change it because my views might have changed.
Absolutely.
um
Hmm.
I mean, for the record, I highly doubt that, but it's just an
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
but I really like that, and I think that kind of takes me on to my last question for you, Kitty. And I think I might know the answer roughly, but if you had a bit of advice to any writers out there, whether they are poets or a playwright or a singer-songwriter, they write music and songs, what would you advise to them? Anyone that may be coming into it for the first time, needs a bit of
Hmm.
advice, what would you say to them?
I think for me, it's about experiencing life as authentically to yourself as you can, and not um, living it through social media or comparing what's going on or who you are, or take inspiration from as much as you can and collect as much as you can as you kind of grow and as you go through life, and let things don't let the fear of things being less than make what you're doing less than it is, if that makes sense. Like, what you're doing is enough just as it is, and you can just grow and change and decide any day that you want to be different or you're going to do something different. And that's not just okay, that's brilliant. Like, that's a really magical thing that we can do as people, not just as creatives, but just as individuals. Um, we can change our attitudes or our emotions or our choices every single day. And just because you've done something one way doesn't mean you have to do it that way forever. Or you can try something new at any point. And I just think that's really magical and something we should always do until we're little old people on Zimmer frames, or like zoomy Zimmer frames that we're going to have in the future.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hoverboards.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's a really sound bit of advice.
Yeah.
I think we often get really caught up in this idea of what we need to be or what we need to be doing.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
actually, like you say, we have that complete freedom to choose. And
Yeah.
we are, both myself and you, Kitty, we're very lucky in that we have the ability to record music if we want to. We
Yeah.
can go to gigs if we want to. And I think having that creative freedom as a creative is very, very important. You can
Hmm.
change your work and your sort of what you're putting out there into the world very easily. But
Yeah.
as people, you're absolutely right. We are masters of our own fate. We must follow our instinct and try and be true to ourselves and do what
Hmm.
feels right for us. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
thing
Hmm.
to draw this
Yeah.
podcast to a close with.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kitty. This has been like
No, thank you.
wonderful. Um, for anybody that wants to find you on social media or on Spotify, how can we find you?
It is just the Dove and the Dragon, which I get queried on so many times. Um, it's the Dove and the Dragon, as in little white bird, as in big green red scaly monster that's not a T-Rex. Um, so it's just the Dove and the Dragon, on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, Spotify. I don't tend to have a huge output online. Um, but you can kind of find me where I'm playing gigs and whatever kind of happens in the future under that name.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again, Kitty. It's been absolutely wonderful chatting to you. Thank you again, lovely listeners, for tuning back into the Blue Balloon Theatre podcast. If you enjoyed it, leave a like on YouTube, comment on YouTube and on Spotify. That's a thing now. You can comment on Spotify. And
I didn't know that.
I know, honestly.
That's amazing.
I got an email the other day from people commenting on one of the episodes, and I was like, what is this? But it's amazing. And I think it's such a wonderful feature. So yeah, comment your thoughts if you enjoyed, and we'll see you at the next episode. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.